And now, the Lafayette Food Junkie Show, served up medium rare every Sunday night.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany. Here we talk about all the food happenings around Acadiana. If you like food, tune in. You might learn something new. Well, it's been a week. Some of you have been eating your feelings. Some of you have been drinking your feelings. And some of you have been in celebration. But it is Sunday night, and we have cold weather, and that I am excited about. Joining me tonight as guest co-host is Miss Ann Falgout. She is my favorite foodie friend, and she works for Vermilion Parish Economic Development, and she also runs And Can Cook. And she's been on the show numerous times, so thank you so much for coming back tonight.
Anytime I get to talk about food is a fun time.
Yeah, I know you're a very busy lady, so now that we got you in the studio, I'm super stoked about that.
Yeah. Happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly. I also want to sadly say that I was very sad that Leonard Cohen passed this week. I was a big fan, and the older I get, the more of my musician likes keep passing, and it's sad, but it makes you appreciate the music so much more. I feel like this is a food and music show, so I think it's very appropriate.
Food and music always go together.
Yeah, and you're dating a musician,
yes,
so it kind of goes together. I attempted my first ramen this week.
It looked great.
It was so good. I learned some things for next time, so it wasn't a smashing success. Mainly, it wasn't a smashing success because I did cook it in. I didn't cook the noodles themselves in the crock pot, but the broth I cooked in the crock pot, which is a yes. I would recommend that to anyone. However, my crock pot was not big enough because mine is in storage, and I was using my boyfriend's, and it was much smaller. And so that was a big learning lesson there. So a bigger crock pot next time.
Absolutely. Well, I love that you used your crock pot because that just tells me that you cooked it forever. And
yes. That's part
the
of
thing
what
with
made
ramen.
It so,
yeah. If you can cook that broth for a long time, you're always going to get a good flavor.
Well, my rationale was it's something that needs to cook all day. And instead of me having to stand at the stove all day, just put it in a crock pot. I used deer meat, which is not typically has no fat. So I happen to have a jar of fat.
Like every good Louisiana cook should
jar
have.
Of fat. So last time I used the crock pot, I cooked a pork roast in it, and all the fat and goodness and the bone marrow and all of that drippings I saved and froze because I was going to make a soup with it. And I was like, oh, this is perfect. So I added that to it. I used a vegetable broth. Ginger was in there, garlic. And that was pretty much it for the base. And it just cooked all day. Now, another mistake I made was I'm swimming in collard greens right now because of the CSA. Nice. I'm so sick of greens. I told Steven with Inglewood Farm, he comes on the show always talking about, get your CSA. And this year I did. I messaged him and I said, I'm officially sick of greens. And he said, well, I'm sorry because there's going to be more in next week's. So...
They're in season, so
right. He's like, I'll post recipes. So thankfully, he is posting recipes, but I'm running out of ideas of things to do with the greens. So I added greens to the broth, and the mistake that I made was that I added them when I added everything else
too early.
Yeah. So by the time it was finished cooking, it was kind of just like a gray nothingness. So next time I'll probably do that. I'll probably turn the crock pot off, and while I'm assembling the noodles and everything, just kind of stick it in there so it can kind of cook through. But it was really good. Another mistake I made was I decided I was looking for just regular ramen because I knew that they sold them in some places, but the particular place that I saw them sold them for like $6 a package, and it ridiculously expensive. I said, I'm just going to go buy the 25-cent instant ramen and use that. So I go to the store, I'm grabbing a bunch of the ramen, and then I look and I see the box of ramen that they sell that's like $5. So me thinking that it's still the square package, I'm like, okay, well, I'll just buy this. We'll open them up, throw the seasoning packet away. It'll be fine. Open the box, and it's actually the cup of ramen, and the seasoning and everything is already mixed in with it.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
So me and my lovely boyfriend were in the kitchen opening up all of these containers and trying to get as much of the seasoning off.
Put them in a colander and shake it out.
Right. But it actually worked in that the little bit of seasoning that was left on them cooked in the water, and we added the broth to that so we could have more, because that was part of the problem. Like, it wasn't enough. And I mean, it turned out great. Like, it was great. I have a huge pot left. One of his kids actually liked it, which I was completely shocked about. But I think it was mainly because I let her eat with the chopsticks, and I showed her how to eat with chopsticks. And I think that was really what it was about. But she liked it, and it was good.
That's
and
fantastic.
I'll be eating on it for the next 3 weeks. There's so much of it.
I'm a big fan of like powdered bouillon. If you can't get, I love the jar, cooked down. If you can't do it yourself, that's what's great about those packets, is it has some bouillon in it.
Yeah.
So it'll add a lot of flavor. It adds a lot of sodium. So I'm the same way. I buy the 25-cent packs. I throw the seasoning away. And I use the noodles for everything from ramen to, I butter them for the kids. It's an easy kind of thing to use, for sure.
Super easy.
Very convenient, very cheap.
Big learning lesson that I also learned. So I checked out the Asian market because we've been talking about I'm going to be making kimchi, and there were some ingredients for the kimchi that I needed to get there that were specifically at the Asian market. They have a whole aisle of ramen, and the particular brand of ramen that the other store had, they had it for 75% cheaper. So that's if you are getting a unique ingredient, yes, your local grocery store may have it, but go check out the Asian market because it may be significantly cheaper.
See, I do the same thing with Greek food too.
Yeah.
So I go to Athena, has a little grocery store on Ambassador inside the restaurant, and that's where I buy my Greek and Mediterranean products too, because they're just so much cheaper and the variety is there.
Yeah.
You have so many options. I usually buy 2 or 3. And then I can try them all out and figure out which one I like the best.
Someone told me that they buy their vegetables from the Asian market because it's so much cheaper. And I didn't really look at all the produce that they had to offer. Also, if you want dumplings, they have every variety of frozen dumpling there. So if you're upset like me, like, hey, Lafayette, I wish we had a dim sum place, you can go to the Asian market, check out the frozen section, get all the frozen dumplings, and make your own dim sum at home.
Because, I love dumplings, but they are quite the ordeal to put together yourself. You can do it, but it takes a lot of work. So it's great if you're cooking ramen and you want to do some little dumplings on the side for the kids, or just have something to add to the experience.
Right. It was really cool. I'm glad that I went and walked around. Also, they had the cutest little I wanted like a ramen bowl or like a pho bowl, and a friend of mine actually made this point that whenever she gets takeout pho, she never has a big enough bowl to put it in.
You have to put it in a mixing bowl,
right,
really?
You don't. So they had all different size bowls there, and it was almost like, dish sets, and they had the cutest little cat.
Perfect for you.
Yeah, so I got a pink one and a blue one, and now I have a ramen pho bowl, and I want to go back and get the other sets. And they have a tea set. They have all kinds of cool stuff there. So go check out the Asian markets in town. Also, some of them have food, and you can, get food there too. Banh mi, they have pho, they have other things. We have like 3 or 4 in town. The one that I went to was on Arnold Boulevard. But yeah, go check it out. Especially if you're looking for a hard to find ingredient, it may be significantly cheaper than at your local market. All right, we are going to take our first break, and when we come back, we have more with Ann. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
On News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany, and joining as guest co-host tonight is Miss Ann Falgout with Ann Can Cook. We need to plug that a little bit. Tell us about the site.
So every Wednesday in the Daily Advertiser's Accent section, you can find my column, Chef Ann Specials, and that is accompanied by a Facebook page and an Instagram account that shows off the dishes that I've made during the week. And if you're lucky, I'll also feature a recipe, but the recipes are always in the paper. So I love requests too. So I love to interact with my fans there and put some good food together.
She takes some glorious food pictures too. Whenever she posts what she's cooking, I'm like, man. And I've gotten to eat some of those wonderful meals. So
You've gotten to eat some bad ones too.
Yes.
We have some
Your
fails
bad
every
one
once in a
wasn't
while.
your bad one though was still not bad. Like it was still good.
Yeah, well, I've been doing this since 2011. So,
Yeah.
for 5 years, there's a brand new recipe every week. So sometimes you're going to
lot.
have some
Yeah.
misses and sometimes you're going to have some hits.
There needs to be a cookbook.
I would love
In
to
the
do
works.
that if any publishers are listening out there.
I'll put it out there into the universe.
Yeah, let's
about
see
a
what
cookbook.
happens.
Yeah. All right. So I've gone down this kimchi rabbit hole.
I love this.
I talked about this a few weeks on the show. A few weeks ago, Bon Appetit had talked about how easy it was to kimchi. And seriously, they have a kimchi recipe on the Bon Appetit website that is ridiculously easy. And they're basically like, you can kimchi any vegetable.
See, I went the pickle route last year. Remember I pickled everything that I had.
You can pickle that. That's
you
a
can
poor
pickle that.
lady.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I haven't forayed into the world of kimchi yet. So I'm excited to hear about your.
Which was also why I had to go to the Asian market because they have the fish sauce. And by the way, there's like 100 varieties of fish sauce. I was a little overwhelmed. So I picked one that I feel like I've seen before. So I was like, I'll go with that one. And then this gigantic bag of red pepper powder, pretty much. So if you need some, I have you. I have you there.
That sounds great.
Also, I needed quart-sized mason jars. And you can't just go to the store
and buy one.
You have to buy 20. So I also have 18 quart-size mason jars, but we also decided that we're probably going to try to infuse some vodka.
Nice.
We got some satsumas in our CSA, and we're going to take the rinds. We're on the hunt for vanilla bean. Do you know where we can get vanilla bean? Like the whole vanilla bean pod in Lafayette?
Yeah,
because we looked today and we couldn't find it.
I've gotten them at Target before, of all places,
Okay,
and World
Target.
Market too has good spices.
All right. We'll have to go there because also I could not find cumin today at the store that we went to, and
I have
was
like
kind
3
of shocked.
bottles, so
okay, well
you can come
I would
grocery
like
shop
one.
in my
I would like
pantry.
one. But we're gonna infuse. We have so much vodka, but we're gonna do the satsuma peels and maybe a little bit of the juice, and then the vanilla pod in the mason jar, and kind of do it that way.
You know what I really love with orange too is coriander
or
ginger or both.
We have ginger.
See, now coriander is the seed that you get cumin out of. So I mean that kind of like spicy bite is really great with citrus.
Okay,
So
well we may check that out then.
when we talk about beer later, we'll talk more about coriander.
We'll
I'm
talk
sure.
about that. Yeah. So okay, I did it all. I thought I was gonna only have enough for one, but I actually have 2 mason jars, and I did collard greens. I did daikon, turnips, ginger, and garlic. So that's what I did with it. Oh, and I think I did some jalapeno and green peppers in there too.
I'm really curious to see how it came out because everything you mentioned has like a really different and distinct texture.
Right.
So that's really exciting to kind of see which textures work the best.
I'm very curious. So I put it, it's basically done sitting on the counter. You have to burp it like a baby.
Exactly.
It's my kimchi baby. So you pull the top off, and you basically, how you burp it is you push it all down to make sure the juices stay on top of it. And it kind of releases the gases that are in there. Well, when I went to open one of the containers last time, it almost shot off. So I was like, oh, there was a lot of gas in there.
You're doing something right.
I went to Facebook because I wasn't sure, and somebody said that was a good sign. So maybe I won't kill anyone.
I'm excited to try. Look, I'll be your guinea pig.
Okay, because I don't know if my boyfriend's gonna eat any of it.
So what are you gonna do with your?
No, he said no.
What are you gonna do with your kimchi?
I don't know. I'm kind of wanting to eat it with rice. I've been looking at some kimchi fried rice recipes.
Oh, nice.
With eggs too. I eat a lot of eggs, so we'll see. We'll play around with it.
Yeah, you could do probably something kind of rich, kind of creamy, even too, with that sharp contrast.
I wish that I had something spicy to go on the ramen. So next time I make
nice.
ramen,
Good idea.
I'll have that to go with it too. So we'll see. We've been in a habit of. So today we were talking about he always has to get milk when the kids come, and we don't drink milk. So whatever doesn't get used gets wasted. Bad. And I was telling him today, I was like, you can freeze it if, you don't use it. And he said, I think I'm going to try to make cheese. I found a really easy cheese recipe online. And sure enough, who knew it was this easy to make cheese? It was basically you boil the milk over medium. Like, it's like real slow. And then once it's boiling, you add vinegar to it to make it separate.
Curdle,
yeah. And then you get some cheesecloth, you drain it, you collect your cheese curds, you mold it, and then he put some stuff on it to press it to get the extra water out. And it was basically a ricotta. Like he made ricotta cheese, and it's pretty good.
That's great.
Yeah, I suggested that he add a little salt to it, which he did. So I haven't tasted it since he added the salt. But I was also telling him maybe the next one that he makes, because I never think about ricotta in the sweet sense. I always think about it in the savory. But I was like, we should get some peaches. We can grill them,
honey,
add the ricotta, and drizzle the honey on top of it. So I think the next
balsamic vinegar and ricotta are really great together too.
Yeah. So now I'm on the hunt for ricotta recipes, and Google has become my best friend with the CSA and trying to figure out what I'm going to do with these different ingredients. So I Googled ricotta and greens, and I came up with a ricotta greens vegetable lasagna that I think we're going to try to do.
See, that sounds like heaven to me.
Yeah, it kills two birds with one stone. So
absolutely. Like my daughter loves ricotta, my oldest. Just manicotti or lasagna, anything that has ricotta in it, like the mildness of it just lends itself to so many different applications.
See, and I generally don't like it because of the mildness of it. But then when I was thinking about the sweet aspect of it, I was like, ooh, yeah, that would be good for that. So
yeah, I usually just, I take the ricotta, I season it really well with some herbs and add egg and sometimes some mozzarella. And that's what I use to salt it, really, instead of using salt. And I'll stuff it inside some big, gigantic shells and just, nestle it in some tomato sauce. And that's it. Call it a day. So good.
I think we're going to try mozzarella next because that's another easy one that you can do at home. It's just going to be a little more work, and we have to find citric acid, and there's this other component that we need to find too that we need to add to it. And that was going to be a little more laborious because you have to pull it.
Right.
So it'll be a little more involved, but I'm excited. I did not know it was this easy to make cheese. And I think that this is kind of dangerous that I've discovered this.
Or it's really great. And so if you ever need to hunker down at home, you could just supply yourself with everything you need.
Make pickles and kimchi and cheese.
I love it.
Set. I'm ready for the apocalypse. I'm ready.
Exactly.
We're ready for the zombie apocalypse if it happens. So Abbeville had the giant omelet festival last weekend, and you are very much involved in that. And it's kind of a family affair. You want to talk a little bit about that?
It is. Back in '84, my grandfather was the president of the chamber, and he went to France with a couple of his chamber members for a twinning ceremony, and they visited a neighboring city, Fréjus. Actually, they went to Bessières that time. They went to Bessières, France, and experienced this giant omelet. And, the legend is that Napoleon was marching through France, and the only thing there was enough of to feed his troops was eggs. So they prepared this giant omelet, and that legacy has lived through the ages. And now 7 places around the world actually do a giant omelet celebration.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Brazil is kind of next on my list. So we visit foreign omelets, and there's a fraternity. And so we have 4 generations involved, my grandmother, my mom and dad, me, and my kids. So it's really fun, a lot of great food, local vendors from all over the South, really, too. And we just celebrate our French heritage, and we eat well.
What are some of your favorite places to eat at in Vermilion Parish?
Oh, my goodness. So I have to be real honest. I am addicted to this one place in town. Mostly because of how easy it is. It has a drive-through. It's a little coffee shop, and they make the best sandwiches. They make homemade hummus every day. Starting November, they make a different soup every day, and you have everything from sweet potato to different sausage soups, brothy soups. They make this grilled chicken Caesar wrap. I know that sounds so simple, but it is to die for, and I would get that at least once a week. But I mean, if you want seafood, we have seafood. So
that's where I send everyone who wants seafood.
Inevitably, if I have to take a client out to lunch, I'm going to Dupuy's and I'm getting a seafood salad. And if you can find the lettuce, you win the prize. It's covered in boiled seafood, and it's just wonderful, and it's all right there from the Gulf. So
I have to ask you, there is this donut place in Kaplan that was doing
Donut Queen
stuffed with boudin.
Yeah.
Did you get to taste them?
Yeah, I have had
how
their
was
boudin
it?
stuffed donuts. It's pretty incredible. It's very decadent. But they do boudin kolaches too, so I kind of knew what to expect, and they just they glazed them, and it's a great treat. But Donut Queen is the name of it. Great little place. They do, king cakes during Mardi Gras and all kinds of little novelty things.
Yeah.
I think they're just having fun. They get a special request or they get the envie for something different and they put it together. So
I think that's the place that they send me. They have these really crazy king cakes that they have, and I've seen them that way before too. So I'm gonna have to go check them out.
you're gonna have to check out Donut Queen.
All right, we are gonna take a break, and when we come back, we have more with Ann. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 K.
From boudin to the best burgers Acadiana has to offer, it's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Deku, and joining me tonight is Ann Falgout with Ann Can Cook. Someone called as we were going to commercial break, and we tried to pick up and it got disconnected. So if you want to call back, we have someone that can answer the phone and help you with what you were calling about. We were talking about donuts, and since we're still on that topic, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Glaze House Company. It is a new donut and slider shop that's opened up in Youngsville. They're right next to the hot dog stop next to Rouse's in that area. I'm really excited about all of the restaurants that are coming to Youngsville. There's so much that's happening in that little area, so it's nice to see. My boyfriend got the BLT slider, and they had a donut breakfast sandwich, and you could get it glazed or not glazed. I opted for glazed, and
You just went full throttle.
I just went for it. I was like, you got to try it. You got to
yeah,
see.
absolutely.
And it had ham, cheese, and egg on it. It was a little messy, and just the ham and cheese, I think with the glaze would have been good, but with the eggs, I feel like I should not have gotten the glaze. But the donut itself was really great as a bread, and they even have like donut sandwiches.
Are they cake donuts or
no?
Okay.
It's a regular donut. Yeah.
Great.
So it's really cool. They're going to be getting coffee. I think they just opened, so they're still kind of working some things out. But nice little shop there. I need to go back and try just the donuts and the kolaches too that they have.
I saw their menu and it reads real well. They have a little variety, some salads, some sandwiches. So I'm excited to check it out too.
Yeah, it's really cool. And if I end up relocating to Youngsville, I'm excited that there's so much.
Well, that's
right
It's exciting to hear too that there's just some new locally owned restaurants popping up.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've talked about this a lot, and I kind of talk about it with other fellow food lovers. Like when you're obsessed with food and then dating as someone who's obsessed with food. So what have been some ups and downs for you? Because you're a lady who loves food.
Love food. Love to cook.
How do the men typically react to that?
Usually it's a positive reaction, although... So when Lucas and I started dating, he was a vegan. So that was like my biggest food challenge to date. And probably my favorite one, actually, because it was really great to think first about food as fuel and not about just taste, and then try to work backwards from that. So it started out a little rocky with that, but then we got better at it. And now we've incorporated a lot more things into our diets, and we like to have fun with food. He likes things really, really simple. So I've changed the way I season food, and I've learned a lot from his grandmother, who's a great cook, but she can make anything taste good. Dried beans, I've never had dried beans taste so good as
Really?
Yeah. Lady Queen peas that's one of my new favorite things. Just cooked down over time with a little garlic and onion. She makes her homemade salad dressing, so I've stole that recipe from her. But yeah, it's fun. You never know what kind of tastes you're gonna encounter. It's kind of like just even with friends, it's gonna be hit or miss sometimes. But he's great because he's willing to try anything I make. He rarely complains. And he cleans his plate literally. So,
Nice.
so it's been real good.
Did you have a lot of guys like when you were dating that were like, "Oh, are you gonna cook for me?"
Oh, it was mandatory.
And they like expect it. Yeah.
Yeah, they did. But I love it. That's kind of the way I show affection as I feed people. I think it's a very special and intimate thing to have someone in your home or in their home. And even from shopping ingredients to preparing them, I'm a firm believer in eating with your eyes. So getting people involved in that process, either selecting ingredients or actually putting them on the plate, creates a little bond. So it was always requested, and I always did it.
I always would get guys that would make me pick the restaurants because of what I do. So they would always be like, "Oh, you have to pick the restaurant." And I get it, and I understand why they did it, but I hated it because I pick restaurants all the time.
All the time,
you
right?
know, I want to see what you like and what you pick, and I guess I felt like I would judge them, and I'm gonna be honest,
Maybe you did.
I did.
You did.
On some
You did.
occasions, I did, but I went on a date one time and I was seeing a guy for a while who he picked the restaurant for the first time, and he picked everything that we ate on the menu. And I kind of liked that. Now,
Wait,
on
was
the
he a
menu-
good orderer though?
Yes, he was.
Because you and
really
I talk
good.
about how good we are at ordering.
Yes.
So
That's kind of like you pick the restaurant, but
Let me pick the
Let me
food.
pick the food. And that's another thing that I really like, if they let me pick whatever I want, and then just share. I'm a big sharer.
Love
I
that.
eat off of people's plates. So, dating people like that. And a big thing for me too is if they want to cook for me. I think that's how Ben won me over. He cooked me a meal and he like planned it. And I was trying to do low carb at the time, and he went and researched and did a low carb meal. He found a low carb meal.
Funny
online and
you
cooked
say that,
for me.
because one of the first things Lucas did for me was he made me a tomato basil soup that was out of this world. Now, it took 12 hours.
Wow.
I'm not exaggerating.
Were you at the house the whole time?
We were there at the house. We did not eat it that night. We ate it for breakfast. Like, it
Wow.
was insane. It took so much care and attention. And I said, wow, if he takes this much care and attention with a soup, I'm probably in for something good. So it was really great. And he's great at like slow cooking, Cajun food, making gravies, good stuff like that.
Yeah,
Good Cajun boy.
And it's important for me too to date someone that likes food, because it's so much part of what I do. And having found someone now that we cook together, like we meal plan together, and it's fun. Like we haven't really been dining out all that much, because I've been taking so much joy, and it's almost like a stress relief for me too.
Absolutely.
To cook at home. So it's been a different role reversal, I guess, cooking at home as opposed to dining out. But I'm really enjoying it, and it's fun. And,
I love it.
like you said, like cooking for people and have them like your food and enjoy your food. It's the biggest thing. Like the kids, like if the kids like what I'm cooking,
You win.
it's the biggest. I'm like, yes,
Well,
I have won.
We have people in and out of the house all the time, either that he's teaching or working with on projects. And so while they're busy, doing their thing, playing music, I'm in the kitchen cooking. And I love being able to we kind of feed their souls in a couple different ways. We have the creativity gets to come out, and they get to really explore that. And then we get to leave them with full bellies. And it's pretty much my favorite thing.
So something that I experienced this week is called Lunch Club, but you're familiar with
Love Lunch Club.
Okay.
Love it.
So I recently found out about Lunch Club, and on next week's episode, I'm going to talk about it more, because the girl that invited me is going to be my guest co-host next week, Kristen Scarillo. She's the paleo chef, and she's been on the show. She'll be on the show next week too, and we'll talk about it more. But something that I was not aware of, and I have no idea how long this has been going on for. You have to sign up at the beginning of the semester with the dietitian or the hospitality program at UL, and they do something called Lunch Club on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and it starts their junior year and they basically work every position in a restaurant. It's like a little mini restaurant in Hamilton Hall. And
it's so unassuming.
Yeah, it's just like it's like, oh,
I'm on
going to
campus.
class.
Yeah.
I'm going to class. Oh, there's a restaurant. And they even have it painted. Like there's a mural in there too. It's really
It's great.
nice. But they work every single part of the restaurant. And then the restaurant changes every Tuesday and Thursday. Whoever is front of the house manager or the executive chef in the kitchen that week, they come together and they create a restaurant concept. So they come up with a name, they come up with the backstory of the restaurant. They have a budget. So there's only a certain amount of people that are allowed to go. I think it's about 50 people. They have about 50 people that go. And it's $15. It's a 4-course meal. It's $15. And it's the coolest thing ever. If you're interested, I would suggest contacting either the hospitality or the dietitian department, because you have to get on an email list, and they'll email you when spots open up to go, because it's very, very popular.
It's very popular. And both times that I went were actually for like a planned, organized group that was going. So you can actually book the whole dining room for an event.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so I went for the young university professionals, had their a monthly meeting, but they booked it in advance and got the whole dining room. And so they had
very cool.
X number of spots to fill or whatever. And it was really fun, and everybody got to experience it together, and they wanted critiques and criticisms of the food and the service. And that was just something that was different, and it was so wonderful to have them learning in that way and really open to our opinions. It was great. Food was great too when I went.
Very, very cool. Okay, we are going to take another break, and when we come back, we have more with Ann. So come back to us. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
And now, we talk about food. It's the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Welcome back to the Lafayette Food Junkie Show on News Talk 96.5 KPEL. I'm your host, Tiffiany Deku, and we've been talking with Ann Falgout with Ann Can Cook tonight. So, Ann, what is your approach to cooking? Like, when you're planning on what you're going to cook for dinner that night, how do you decide what you're going to cook?
It is very rarely done without an ingredient in mind. So it's usually with 3 kids and a busy lifestyle, it's usually, what do I have in the pantry or the refrigerator that I can use that doesn't require a stop at the grocery store? Because if I go to the grocery store, all hell breaks loose. It's my favorite place on earth. I love to shop the aisles and spend, a couple hours there. So, and a lot of money too. We won't talk about that though. So it's usually about highlighting a certain ingredient. And it usually is produce, because in my house and most people's homes, produce doesn't last a whole lot of time, and if you're buying good produce, it lasts even less. So it's usually, I have a cauliflower or some squash or something seasonal in the refrigerator on the counter that I need to work with. So it usually starts there. I'm a firm believer in good ingredients make good food, and really layering flavors. So
you just gave me an idea when you said squash, and I was thinking about all the squash that I have in the fridge, and I'm think I'm going to do a squash bacon soup with it.
Oh, yeah.
So now
I'm a big fan of squash soup.
Yeah. So now, bing, that thing is done.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I do it, too. Right now, it's been obsessed with the CSA and, like, trying to use the ingredients before they go bad.
Absolutely.
Tyler Thigpen, when she came on the show, she gave me the best advice, which was chop and freeze. Mm-hmm. And we did that with a lot of them. But you only have so much room in the freezer. I actually messaged you a few weeks ago because
you need this?
I thought you had. Yeah, I was trying to get some away, but then I thought you had a stand-up freezer, which you do. But I was
but it's full.
Hey, do you have room in your stand-up freezer? You were like, nope. So,
well, I buy in bulk a lot, just really to save money, and so I have loaves of bread in my freezer, and I try to butcher my own meat, so I'll buy whole pork loins and butcher that down, and whole chickens and pull them apart and put them in different kind of packaging for different kind of uses. So to me, that's just as fun as the cooking itself, as the prep. So I spend a lot of time doing that.
See, I'm not the biggest fan of prep, but I am the biggest fan of coming up with what I'm going to cook. So that's the most exciting part for me, is planning what I'm going to cook. Google's been my best friend. Like I said, just typing in the ingredient and all these recipes come up at your disposal. So it's so great that that you can do that.
Absolutely, and I love to test my theories before I get them in the pot. So I will just think about what I would like texture-wise with an ingredient. Usually it's texture. And then figure out, what kind of spices and seasonings will kind of help it balance out. And then I'll do the Google searching on the back end, because I like the challenge, and I like the originality of it, and it's important for the blog. So so then I'll start testing my theories. Does anyone put these two things together? And once I get a feel for it and see, oh yeah, they do use that in Mediterranean cooking or in Chinese cooking. Once I get an idea that I'm not crazy. Sometimes I won't find out that I'm not crazy, and I'll just do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I'll do that on the back end, and that's how I look for recipes too. I read 4 or 5 of the same dishes with different recipes, and I'll come up with my own version based on that.
I kind of do that too. Like I'll read the ingredients, but then I'm like, well, let me swap this, or
Absolutely.
like the base of the recipe will be the same, but I may tweak it here or there depending on what I have in the house and to my palate and what I like. So
I love
like
spices.
when a recipe is adaptable.
Yeah, absolutely. I love spices, so my house is stocked with almost any kind of spices you could imagine.
Go get cumin from
Exactly. I love spices, and that really can turn a simple ingredient change the whole outcome of the dish just by adding a different spice. And so I took some time to learn how do I make Italian food spicy? What kind of spice would do that? And like learning what kind of peppers that are used in different kind of cuisines. What kind of herbs. And then once you kind of have that figured out, what typically is in those kind of cuisines, then it's just a matter of pulling something out the fridge and getting to it.
Yeah. And you also have a beer Instagram.
Yeah. A beer Instagram. Yeah. My boyfriend and I were looking for something to do together. That wasn't work, is what we said. It can't be work. And so the beginning of the year, we started an Instagram called Hoppy New Beer. And it was our commitment to each other to do something fun together that we could enjoy. So it's full of pictures of beer, puns. We love puns. And a little wordplay there. And in some cases, some reviews. And we do that. We bought the appropriate beer glasses. We pour it all out. And we do that so people can really get an idea of what they're getting into, because beer's tough, especially if you're trying to buy 6-packs. If you're not in an area that has singles, it's really hard to figure out if you're going to like it. And then you could end up with a 6-pack of something you don't like. So we spend a lot of time at our favorite little our beer spots and invest in all different kind of varieties and try it out. And we document it all. We pair it with food, and we have a good time doing it.
What have been some of the recent discoveries that you've really liked?
Yeah, so there's a couple different variety. I mean, if we can get our hands on some micro brews, that's our favorite. So when we travel, we try to get the most local beer we can, and we usually rely on the kindness of strangers. Usually, there's a beer guy in a grocery store or a market that we get our information from. But like commercially available, kind of to everybody. Big Sierra Nevada fans, big Sam Adams fans. Seasonal beers are out right now. We're kind of transitioning from fall into winter, and Sam Adams has a winter lager that has some orange and some ginger and cinnamon. That is my all-time favorite. Is actually a holiday beer. Is a Christmas beer. It's called Holiday Cheer. But again, it's not the same every year. So that's kind of the fun of it too. You find something that you love, and then you try to find something that was similar to it, and it's not always a success, but it sure is fun to try.
Man, speaking of seasonal beers, that just clicked that Joyeux Noël with Bayou Touche is coming out. I actually really like that one. It's kind of sweeter, and I feel like he said eating it over ice cream, I guess.
Ooh.
Saying something like that, like condensing it down like as a syrup and doing it over ice cream.
That sounds like a fun project.
I like that beer.
Might have to have a little crossover.
Yeah.
A cooking blog post about cooking with beer. It's something that we do a lot.
Yeah.
We don't like a beer, we never throw it away.
We
cook with it. Yeah, absolutely. Chilies, soups, marinades, beers. Because of the makeup of beer, it's really great at tenderizing meat. So we use it a lot.
Oh, that's another.
Yeah.
Well, we have some beer in the fridge. We're gonna have.
It'll be good with your deer.
Yes.
To help tenderize it.
We need to tenderize it.
Yeah.
All right. Good to know. Before working with Vermilion Parish Economic Development, you worked with Lafayette Economic Development.
Yeah.
On last week's show, we talked about 3 restaurants in town that recently closed. And we were kind of talking about, in this economic climate that we have right now, what keeps you going back to a restaurant?
Yeah, it's tough. It's hard to track consumer behavior, but anytime things get tight, you always see like a decline in sales and, those big ticket items like cars and white goods and, appliances, things like that. But when we start seeing a downtick in things like food and apparel, then you kind of know people are nervous. And it's really more about consumer uncertainty than it is about necessarily something bad.
Right.
Sometimes people are just wary, to go out and spend that extra dollar. But for me, good food is paramount. I can deal with bad service if the food's
That's
good.
What I was saying last week too.
I'm totally willing to deal with it. Some places are better than others in that respect, but good food it always wins out in my book.
What do you think about this trend that's going towards fast casual? Fast family casual has become so big. A lot of high-end chefs are going and opening like burger joints and places like that, and they're hugely popular. Also, delivery services, and just walk up to the counter, order your food, and leave. Like the idea of the restaurant dining room some say is dying. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, I definitely think there's a place for fast casual. One of my really biggest concerns is accessibility. So I think good food should be accessible to everyone.
Right.
So fast casual dining and things like Blue Apron and, things where, your ingredients come to your door, or even your meals in some cases come to your door. I think that's incredible. I think it's great for families of all kinds to be able to, or individuals, couples, to be able to enjoy great food in a relaxed atmosphere. Sometimes you don't want to be interrupted, during a meal. But I think there's always going to be room for, a white tablecloth experience.
You want to celebrate sometime. Like where are the places that you'll go for birthdays, anniversaries,
exactly,
and, celebration meals?
And some people like strike a really good chord between the two. I'm a big fan of Bread and Circus, and I love how they transition from day to night. And they free up their service for the evening, and that helps the restaurant kind of stay competitive. But you can get both experiences, both sides of the coin. So I think there's room for everybody. I'm really disappointed to see those restaurants close. But Lafayette's always been a place that likes good food and demands good food. We just need to make sure that we don't get a little too overrun with our national chains. And I think there's room for everybody. But when that happens, like it's been happening, the restaurants really have to step it up. And sometimes it's just cost prohibitive or,
right.
It's tough. There's a lot of competition.
There's a lot of restaurants. We have no shortage of restaurants in town.
You are right.
Maybe a little more diversity in the restaurants, but yeah.
I'd love to see that.
This is definitely a restaurant town. So seeing numerous restaurants closing at once, it kind of has me on edge. But yeah, we'll see what happens.
We'll see how it plays out. But we've had great restaurants close before.
Yeah, this is true, very true.
And people rebound and ideas and concepts rebound too. So hopefully it's not a trend.
A discovery on Instagram yesterday was this creamery out of Baton Rouge called La Mode Southern Craft Ice Cream. They're on Facebook and Instagram. You cannot get it here in Lafayette. She is only around the Baton Rouge area right now, but they have a variety called cornbread and cream, and I'm really curious about that.
And it's an ice cream?
Yeah. So if anyone out there is listening and has tried it, if you want to email me at lafayettefoodjunkie@gmail.com and let me know how it tastes. I'm very curious. I want to
Like cream corn, maybe?
no, I don't think it would taste like cream corn.
Oh, maybe.
I feel like it tastes like you've never had cornbread and milk.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like it's gonna taste like that with maybe a little tad of.
I'm wondering
sweetness.
how they work out the texture with that.
I don't know. I'm
It's
curious.
very interesting.
Go check it out. All right. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, Anne.
Anytime.
It's always a pleasure.
Anytime.
That's our show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Join us next week, Sunday at 6 p.m.